Hello and welcome everybody to this first global Bitcoin meetup. We are really happy and really glad that we managed to pull this off despite all the difficulties. We are 4 different countries from 3 different continents, and this is the actual proof of that ideas and common goals doesn't have borders, just like Bitcoin. So I want to welcome everybody here. Relax, stay comfortable, share the link if you want to your social media so as more people can join, and I'll handle it to Monis and enjoy the meetup. Monis.
Okay, thank you, George. So hi, my name is Monis, and I would like to welcome everyone to our first global Bitcoin meetup, a joint community effort by the Greek cryptocurrency community, Bitcoin Austria, Bitcoin Saigon, and Bitcoin Argentina. Today is about unity and knowledge sharing, and it's also about smashing all those cross-border limitations that prevent us from meeting in the real world by meeting up digitally. By the end of the day, you will know some of our community members, and hopefully you'll know more about Bitcoin. Lastly, I would like to encourage other groups, other similar communities like ours, to reach out to us for more future Bitcoin meetups like the one that you'll attend today. At the same time, we thought it was useful to invite a couple of people that have had a very positive influence in the scene through their social media presence, and essentially one of them is Hodlnut. Hodlnut, hi, how are you?
Hey guys, nice to be here.
Hey, likewise.
I think this is really... sorry?
No, I was about to say that we're honored to have you here, as well as Anita and Robert as well. And thank you for taking the time to join. So all I wanted is just basically hand it over to you so you can tell us your message to the community, maybe share a couple of details about Citadel 21 and what have you been up to?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I want to say I think it's really cool what you are doing here. Pulling this global Bitcoin. I usually use the word community. I know some people don't like that word. I think it works. I think we are united around something very important here, and I think it's fair to call that the community. And yeah, really cool to see Austria, Greece, Vietnam, Argentina, that you guys are like pulling together like this, making something together, proving that we're a global movement around, in my opinion, the most important thing in the world right now. So that's really cool. Kudos to you guys for that. And this yellow Malacca IC offender guy asked me if I wanted to join you guys. So yeah, why not? I thought I could. I see Evan is going to talk about the Lightning Network later, so I thought maybe I would just touch upon that a little bit, because I was involved in this Lightning Torch back in 2019, which went from being just a fun little Twitter thing, and it just blew up and became something big. And I think that was a testament to just how cool Lightning is, and how the power of Lightning, and also the global nature of this community, that the torch traveled around the world in all kinds of ways. And since then, a lot of shit happened in my life. Like this dude with red socks claiming he's some central character in the Bitcoin space started messing with me, and I've been forced to use a lot of time on that. But so Lightning has kind of been a little bit on the back burner for me for a year. But recently, me and Bitcoin Katya, we started this magazine, a Bitcoin cultural scene, Citadel 21, which was basically, we just wanted to have a place where we could display all the cool stuff from Bitcoin culture, from Bitcoiners from around the world, especially like Bitcoiners who maybe doesn't really have a big platform, like just plebs with maybe 100 followers on Twitter with cool ideas. Who we always felt that there was so much cool stuff that wasn't seen by enough eyes. So we started this scene, and we've been running it now since March. We released 5 volumes so far, and the number 6 is coming now in 2 days over at citadel21.com. And a couple of months ago, like, the community started asking us if we would make physical copies, like actually printing these scenes and shipping them around the world. And it wasn't like our plan from the beginning, but at the same time, we thought it sounded like a really cool idea, so we actually started looking into it. And we're lucky enough to have Martin Fischer at Cypherpunk now on Twitter, like this amazing Czech artist, to do the physical design for us. And we have now released the first volume of this magazine, which we printed in 1,000 copies. Like, we had no idea how it would be received, but we actually sold out. And that makes us really happy because we are Bitcoin only. We are trying to run a complete Bitcoin circular economy, and we are doing that. Like, we pay everyone in Bitcoin. Our designer, our printing, our shipping, our hosting, everything is paid with Bitcoin. And we only accept Bitcoin when people want to purchase our scene. And that brought us back to Lightning. I mean, then we needed to run our own node, and we needed a Lightning node. So we set up a Lightning node a couple of months back. It's called Citadel 21, and it's grown like crazy. I think it has something like 150 channels right now. And we're actually seeing very meaningful real-life retail use of Lightning in our shop. Like, around like 30% of our purchases are done with Lightning Network. And this shit works. It actually works right now. I mean, we all know that, but it's so cool to be able to actually run a shop and use Lightning in real life, so to say, to run our business or our project here. And yeah, so my bullishness on this technology is just back to the same old level it was. I kind of forgot about how awesome Lightning Network is, but this is world-changing stuff that will completely disrupt the payments going forward, I'm sure. So big shout out to everyone who has supported us and helped us with our Citadel 21 project, both writing stuff for us, buying our scene, helping us set up things like BTC Pay server, and the guys there has helped us a lot. So yeah, I just want to end with saying that I'm very, very, very bullish on Bitcoin, and I'm very, very, very bullish on Bitcoiners. I just love the thing we have going here. So many great people surrounding this amazing world-changing thing that we have all hopelessly fallen down the rabbit hole on. So yeah, nice to be here, and I hope this thing you are making here will be a success, and that you will repeat it in the future, maybe with different communities.
Excellent. Thank you very much, HODLNOT, and you're more than welcome to stick around if you like. And
yeah,
so
cool. I'll hang around for a while.
Absolutely. So that was HODLNOT, and since it's already getting too late in Vietnam, I think it's probably makes sense for me to hand it over to DOMINIK from Bitcoin Saigon. So DOMINIK, the stage is yours. So we'll hand it over to you so you can start off your presentation.
Thanks a lot, Monis, and thanks also for organizing all of this. Has been a lot of work going into this over the last few weeks. So let's make it happen. And let me see that I start pulling up also my presentation here now. 1 second. Okay, can you guys see this?
Yep, I can see it.
So everybody can see the first slide of the presentation, not that I'm start talking here to the void. Okay, Bitcoin in Vietnam, the presentation about it. Yeah, first a short intro also about myself. Yeah, DOMINIK, as you know, started falling down the rabbit hole like late 2012, early 2013. Back then, still living in my hometown, Frankfurt, where we also started out the first community back there in summer 2013. And I remember like the early days there, it was all very energetic. Everybody kind of knew that this was like some life-changing technology coming around there. But unfortunately, Germany is not really a place for entrepreneurship. So like a lot of the initial drive there kind of disappeared because people basically got told by the regulators they couldn't do anything, or they moved their business abroad, which was the case then for us basically, and which was one of the reasons why I'm now in Saigon since over 6 years. And also helped to launch the local community down here in Saigon in 2014 after I moved over here. Besides that, also in the Bitcoin economy, we launched here the first exchange back in 2014 and have like a couple of products around it, also some Bitcoin ATMs, remittance service, and so on. But let's talk a bit more about the state of Bitcoin in Vietnam. Okay. I would start out also a bit like with the socioeconomic background of Vietnam, because a lot of people in the West, when I had my last presentations talking about it at Unchained in 2018 in Hamburg, and I had also a presentation at the Bitcoin Meetup in Rome in late 2018, and a lot of people just don't know much about Vietnam. I mean, all people know is often just some war movies about jungle and napalm bombs, and that's kind of it. So that's why I'm summarizing a bit like, where do we stand here in Vietnam? So as probably a lot of people know, 1975, the Vietnamese, the war ended here. And for the first 10 years after the war, we had pretty hardcore communism here with all the land redistribution and so on. So you actually had more people fleeing the country in the 10 years after the war than like during the war, because there was just no food here. Mid-80s, the Vietnamese government, same as like in China, they were smart enough to recognize that this is not going to end well for them compared to like what you saw in the Eastern Bloc, Soviet Union. So they started basically opening up the economy pretty harshly. So private enterprise and everything is flourishing basically since like the mid-80s. You see then also the economic growth there. Vietnam is not as advanced as China, but the first time when I went to Vietnam in like 2010 in Saigon, we didn't even have any high-rise yet at all. And now if I compare this to the skyline of my hometown Frankfurt, where they have built maybe 1 or 2 high-rises in the last 10 years, they are building as much per year per district basically here in Saigon. The population is very young, of course, also has to do like with a lot of people being lost during the war, but also like the parent generation. Like, I mean, I think my father-in-law has like 10 siblings or something like this. So back in the day, people reproduced much faster. Nowadays, of course, with rising, expanding middle class, the birth numbers also start to decline. But overall, it's a pretty young population, which of course gives an additional boost to like the economic growth which they have down here in Vietnam. And technology adoption also much faster than I'm used to it from like Germany, where even in the middle of Frankfurt in the banking district, sometimes you don't have a signal. Here, even if you go to some cafe somewhere in the countryside, they have open Wi-Fi. That's just standard here. That's actually the headline from an article in the New York Times from, I think, 2015. Also an article which I definitely would recommend to read if you're interested more about it. Even if we are here officially in a socialist country, if you look what's actually happening on the ground here, it's pretty much hardcore capitalism and free markets. Now going a bit more to like currency. The Vietnamese dong, as you can see here, mid-80s, it was basically one Vietnamese dong was worth $1, and we are now at like $1 is worth roughly 23,000 Vietnamese dong. So inflation of fiat currency is something which is ingrained into everybody's mind here. Everybody who would have kept the savings in the local fiat currency over the last couple of decades, I mean, they would have basically been wiped out. which is one of the reasons that people locally here, I mean, they don't trust the local fiat currency as a savings vehicle at all. I'm going later a bit more also in the store of value part. That was a pretty big story here, like a few years back. This lady invested into, and that was really the name of this investment vehicle, the Socialist Saving Fund, which she was investing some ounces of gold back in the mid-80s. And it was denominated in Vietnamese dong, which then led to, given the inflation rate, which we have seen on the slide before, that basically nothing was left, and the bank was then charging her the bank account fees. So when she wanted to withdraw her savings like a few years ago, the bank basically told her that, yeah, from the gold which you originally deposited in the mid-80s, now she is owing the bank money because there was nothing left and she was charged fees which she hadn't paid since then. The bank, I think, was then at some point generous because it was a big scandal here, and at least she didn't have to pay the fees anymore, but yeah, she didn't get any of her money back. So maybe don't invest into a socialist saving fund. Yeah, that's the remittance numbers, and that's also only the official numbers. Vietnam has a pretty large overseas population, of course, partially driven through like, yeah, the outcome of the Vietnam War, where like a lot of people in South Vietnam left for the US, for Australia, but also a lot of workers then went for earning a better salary overseas. So you have like, I think the picture which you see in the background is Vietnamese workers in some factory in South Korea. So there's a lot of Vietnamese migrant workers overseas which are sending money home, and as you can see, like the number has gone up more than tenfold over the last 15 years. I think the numbers are not really up to date. I think we are close to 20 billion by now. And that's only the official numbers. The unofficial numbers are probably a multiple from this because most Vietnamese people are not using the official channels to send money back into the country. Then a bit more recent numbers. I mean, everybody is aware, Corona and all the stuff which is going on. Vietnam has handled this actually pretty well. We had 2 outbreaks in the country. We are back to 0 community transmission since about a month. Vietnam's economy is still supposed to grow this year by, I think, roughly 3%, which is, given the numbers which we see coming out of a lot of nations in the West especially, I think a pretty good outcome given, this pretty, volatile year which we all have seen in 2020 on a global scale. So getting a bit more into the Bitcoin space itself, that's some recent report from Chainalysis, where Vietnam was counted as one of the top 10 countries regarding like the P2P volume. But as I said before, most of the trading is actually happening underground. So you barely can't see anything what's really happening here on the ground. Some more relevant statistics might be like the traffic on some of the larger exchanges. Vietnam is almost always under the top 10. 99% of the trading volume happens certainly in P2P markets, and most of it is hidden away. So what you see like on local Bitcoins, Paxful, and so on, that's only like the peak of the iceberg. The actual volume is really old school, people just calling each other up and settling trades OTC P2P, which of course makes it also a much more resilient market to a degree than if you have like just a few centralized large on-ramps and they can be shut down at will. The total market volume, I think we are still roughly in this range now. I mean, our OTC desk is trading sometimes in the 7-digit range a day. So that's basically, since you can't see how much volume really there is in the markets, it's more or less based on the estimation like, okay, if we push now 2 million into the market, how much does it impact the market price here locally? And you extrapolate kind of from this. That's why you have a relatively wide range where the actual liquidity could be in the market. And yeah, the OTC markets are liquid only against like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and USDT. USDT especially has taken up a lot of the flow in the last 12 months. Yeah, so I mean, that's basically what I said already. I think I need to start also cutting it a bit short. Use cases, mostly shitcoin gambling. Vietnam generally is a very risk-taking society, and people look only at the possible rewards, not so much at the risks. So similar to like what you might have seen like coming out of China. And so, I mean, people go for crazy returns, even if it's completely unsustainable. It's still one of the major use cases. It's not something we personally encourage or are much interested in, but we just have to recognize that this is a strong part of the market here. Underground remittance, very strong use case as well. It's also in the millions of dollars every day. As you might know, Vietnam also has capital controls, and like generally international banking is slow, it's expensive, and especially USDT over the last year has taken over most of like the transactional demand there. I mean, if we look at the trade flows which we see on our OTC desk, Bitcoin is still interesting for people to do long-term positioning and larger investments, but if it's really just about moving money around, Tesla is more competitive there because you just have tighter spreads, since it's not going to drop 5 or 10% within the next 10 minutes if you're unlucky. Store of value, still early stages. And of course, also people who put millions into it are not going necessarily around and talk much about it. Overall in Vietnam, people are saving, if they are rich, mostly in real estate still. And if they are not as rich, it's gold, not so much stocks, which has a lot to do that a lot of money is earned here in cash in Vietnam. And it's much easier to deploy this into real estate or gold, actual physical gold, compared to like the stock market where everything is tracked and recorded. And that's not something Vietnamese people necessarily appreciate. Circular economy, it's at the moment still at the very early stages. I would say even it's basically everything just what's happening around the community here. But especially over the last year, we see some initial uptakes there. So, I mean, there is companies working in the space. It's our company who's handling a bit like the on and off ramp from Bitcoin to Vietnam Dong. There's like a company like Neutron Pay, which is doing like payment processing, accepting payments on Lightning. We have now a couple of merchants here in Vietnam, Saigon, who are accepting payments via Bitcoin, also payments via Lightning directly. You can basically have your whole vacation here in Vietnam paid in Bitcoin. So we have a travel agency which is accepting it. So once borders open again and you want to check it out, you can basically fully live on Bitcoin. You can book your flight, you can get your hotels, you can get your visa. And there's several venues and restaurants around here, Saigon, where you also can eat all kinds of food and pay in Lightning. So, I mean, it's still small, but we need to start somewhere. And yeah, then a bit about the community itself. The Bitcoin community in Saigon is certainly the strongest one which you have in Vietnam. And I would say probably after the guys in Hong Kong, which of course are crushing it, one of the stronger ones here in Southeast Asia. Created in the fall 2014. We had over 50 public events with a bunch of speakers whose names you probably know. Since 2016, really also have weekly meetups, more on a casual basis, just in a restaurant or bars or something like this, and roughly every month, maybe also some meetup with some speakers. Since our 5-year party last year, we also used some of the proceeds leftovers there to fund our own website, so that we are not reliant on any third-party websites like meetup.com, Facebook, and so on, who could shut us down at any moment, basically, as well as our own community Lightning Nerd, because like having like a talk about Lightning every 6 months, that's nice and interesting, but to actually make stuff happen on the ground, we need to start tinkering around with it. And what you can see in one of the pictures here, that's one of the guys here in the community basically built based on this open source Lightning ATM, his own Lightning ATM. You see people loading up their wallets with some Satoshis and paying for their tacos or pizza with it. Yeah, I mean, just getting people using it instead of just like talking about it. Yeah, so that's basically my talk. That's what's happening here in Vietnam as a short overview. That's how you can follow what's happening within the community, and also below how you can follow myself. And yeah, now open for questions if I have any time left.
Yeah, I think there's some time left, and there are 2 or 3 questions. The first question was from Daniel Franco. Which platform do people in Vietnam use to get Bitcoin?
I mean, obviously they can use our platform. That's how we started out there. But so, I mean, we run a few platforms, Bitcoin VN, VBTC, we have some Bitcoin ATMs and so on. There's a couple of other local exchanges here. They focus more on like the China style, shitcoin casino style, which is fair enough. I mean, it definitely caters a market here. But there is not really one dominating exchange, I would say. As I said before, most of the people really just buy P2P. And I think it's actually an advantage. I mean, it has 2 reasons. One of it is it's not regulated here, and it gives you in a degree more freedom, but also means, of course, that if you raise too much noise, the government is coming down for you. So you can operate here without too much regulatory burden. But if you make too big of a mess, there's still ways to slap you down, basically. So that's kind of the environment you operate in here. Vietnamese people know this. And for this reason, most people try to stay relatively under the radar.
Mm-hmm. And another question is from Yellow. Are there any big Bitcoin mining setups in Vietnam?
I know there is some people definitely doing some mining here, but again, it's not really public. We know even from like back in 2013, 14, there were people setting up mining centers which had connections to get very cheap electricity. But it's again all very much under the radar. Nobody wants to raise too much noise and just keep making money and yeah, keeping the profits for themselves, basically.
Okay, thank you. I think the question from Just Is Mental is also answered, because the question was, are there local exchanges? Okay, that's
yes.
it there.
I mean, yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Monis, we can't hear you, by the way. I think you are trying to say something. Anyway, so I would stop my presentation so we can then start giving over to the next person.
Great. I think that's me. So let me take a moment to get situated here. All right, let's see. All right, how are you looking? Can everyone see my screen? Yes? No?
I see it.
All right, how is it going, everyone? My name's Evan Kaludis. I am a cybersecurity analyst and software engineer. I'm also the creator and maintainer of the Zeus mobile Lightning wallet. Yeah, I'm going to be presenting on behalf of the Greek cryptocurrency community on the state of the Lightning network. Χαιρετίσματα στους Έλληνες και είμαι πολύ ευχαριστημένος που μου ζήτησες να μιλήσω σήμερα. So it's a great honor to speak on behalf of the Greek community. So on that note, let's just dive into it. So why Lightning? What's the problem with just doing payments on Bitcoin on layer one? So I think it comes down to three things, basically. So blockchains aren't conducive to scaling, to handling retail payments, or for privacy. So scaling wise, the problem is the limited block space, which results in high fees. So now with SegWit 2x, Bitcoin has a block limit of about 2 megabytes per every 10-minute block. And fees tend to skyrocket as that limit is approached. So, you don't want to be paying more in fees than, the cost of your purchase. And, as the Bitcoin becomes more popular, that block space is going to be more sought after. And, fees are going to just go up. And then you have the problem of retail, and retailers have a problem with on-chain transactions because you have to wait 10 minutes for them to, be verified. Otherwise, you're risking a double spend attack or a rollback potentially, even though that's rare. So some retailers are open to accepting these risks, but it's really not conducive to, like, say, an in-person retail physical experience. You either have to wait online or have the person wait until blocks clear. And imagine if you're dealing in a period where the difficulty is stepping up and the block times are longer than 10 minutes. It's really not good. I would hate to be at the bodega waiting for my transaction to clear. And then lastly, I would say privacy and the nature of the blockchain. It being, completely transparent, having all transactions logged across all nodes. It's important in the context of the network and being able to audit the supply very cheaply and quickly, but it comes at a cost of privacy to a certain extent. And it would be really nice if this data was provided on a need-to-know basis and or was ephemeral to some extent. So let's take a look at how Lightning solves these things. So what's Lightning? Lightning is the layer 2 payment scaling solution for Bitcoin and UTXO-based blockchains. So it's not exclusive to Bitcoin. It could be implemented on other chains. I believe it's running on Litecoin and a whole other bunch of altcoins. But basically, Lightning sets up peer-to-peer payment channels in ahead of time, like you pre-commit the funds. Like, let's say Hoddlenot and I go to lunch every week or so. We could both put up, $200, $500 worth of Bitcoin and settle our lunch balances on that. And that setup is like a 2 of 2 multi-sig setup, and it's actually a smart contract. So don't ever let anyone tell you that we don't have smart contracts on Bitcoin. Lightning is a prime example of one. So once this is set up, the payment channel is bidirectional. I can send to Hoddlenot, Hoddlenot can send to me. And I like to think of it as like an abacus where you're just shifting the balance. What side of the channel are the sats on? So Lightning also has this concept of routing. There's a hub and spoke model. You don't have to be directly connected to your peer, your counterparty, to send them sats or satoshis. You just need peers that can create a path to them. And then with each router that's helping get the payment to the destination, they could charge fees. There's usually like a base fee, like a flat fee they'll charge, and then usually a percentage is also applied to the amount that they're sending. So there's really interesting incentives and dynamics there. And then the transactions aren't written to the blockchain. So basically only when you're opening a channel or you're closing a channel that you require L1 Bitcoin transactions. Well, there's some other caveats here about who else gets to see the data and routing, but we can get into that a little later. And lastly, Lightning is a spec. We call each part of the spec bolts, and they're called basis of Lightning technologies. It's an RFC spec. It's all maintained on GitHub. And it's not really finalized. There's a few things and a couple of features of Lightning that are still being fleshed out. But that doesn't mean that it's not working. It's working pretty damn well right now. And we're just trying to make it a little better in terms of performance and privacy and liquidity and things like that. There are trade-offs and caveats with Lightning. As an engineer, I'll tell you that if anyone tells you that their engineering solution has no trade-offs, they're lying. Call them out on it. Figure out where those trade-offs are. So one, is routing. You need a route to complete the payments, and the routers can see the payments. That's a big issue. Then you have the issue of liquidity management. You got to have these channels to make your transactions. And, especially if you're receiving transactions, as a retailer, you got to make sure that you have enough channels with liquidity heading your way and able to, be able to accept payments for your regular retail day. Then is the always online nodes problem. So Lightning is like maintaining the state on your node 24/7. You need some sort of way to either run it all the time so it can keep track of the state and make sure your counterparties aren't cheating you. Thankfully, we have this concept of watchtowers, which are like mini nodes that are just looking and trying to keep your parties in check. That's been an interesting development as of late too. And then just a quick rundown of the Bolt specs. I should have done this after the last slide, but Bolt 1's for the base protocol. 2 is for peer protocol of channel management. 3 is Bitcoin transaction and script format. 4 is the onion routing protocol. That's not exactly the Tor network. It's a similar concept as to how routing happens. 5 is recommendations for on-chain transaction handling. 7 is peer-to-peer node and channel discovery. 8 is encrypted and authenticated transport. 9 is assigned feature flags. 10 is DNS bootstrapping and assisted node location. And 11 is invoice protocol for Lightning payments. So that's another big difference with LN. By default, it uses invoices, so you're not just sending public keys and private keys. Although we have a sort of update on Lightning that makes the flow a little more like sending payments on-chain. So we'll talk about that a little later. All right, a quick little history of how Lightning came to be. So first, Joseph Poon and Tadeusz Jaya published a draft of the Lightning Network white paper all the way back in February 2015. It's pretty nuts to think that it's been like 5.5 years since this idea has been accepted. So in 2017, we activated SegWit, and that paved the way for Lightning, helping with some malleability issues. And then March 15, 2018, this is where the fun really began. This is when Lightning Labs CEO Elizabeth Stark announced the initial release of LND 0.4 beta for developers, making it available to everyone for testing purposes on mainnet. So since then, a lot's happened. We've sent some torches around the world. Shout out to HODLNOT. We've set up a lot of new wallets and interfaces and services. But I think most important of all the developments are the different implementations that we have. We have a lot more options than just that initial LND build. Let's get to it. So here are the notable implementations of Lightning right now. So I see the main 3 are up top, and then on the bottom are 3 other notable ones. So by far the most popular is LND, Lightning Network Daemon, maintained by the good folks at Lightning Labs. It's written in Go. It's got REST gRPC APIs that they're constantly working on. I wouldn't say that they're always the first to release new features, but these guys are really pushing some cutting edge stuff. It's the implementation you'll most likely find if you do any of these pre-built node solutions, whether it's one you purchase or put together. Most of them run on LND. And certainly I would like to see more using C-Lightning and Eclair. Hopefully that becomes a little more standard, but that's just the state of it right now. But LND is a great implementation. I got a couple of LND nodes running. Then second most popular is C-Lightning from the good folks at Blockstream's Elements projects. This one's written all in C. It's got a very interesting plugin system. where you can go write plugins in a number of different languages and add them to C Lightning to do all sorts of stuff. For example, people have done API implementations because C Lightning doesn't have APIs built into it, so that's been pretty major. But it also, people have written like plugins for like content paywalls and accounting sort of things. Then lastly, from the big three is Eclair, made by the good folks from Async in France, turned in Scala. And yeah, it's just a very clean code base. I haven't really started using it until very recently in implementing it for support in Zeus. And yeah, it's pretty damn good. It's actually the first LN client that I use in the form of the mobile Eclair wallet. I think that's a really good starter wallet. I know a lot of people have made their first LN transactions on it. Then let's get to some of the lesser known different implementations. We got Ptarmigan, made by the fine folks at Nayuta in Japan, C++ and C. I'm not sure about the future of it. Nayuta was working like a mobile wallet that was powered by it. And I think they've shifted focus a little bit. They have a app called Nayuta Core for Android that bundles up Bitcoin and LND so that you can use like a spare Android to have an LND node to connect your Zeus or your Zap to. So that's pretty cool. They're still doing cool stuff. Then it's Rust Lightning. Rust Lightning is a really interesting one. I really want to sink my teeth into it a little more. I haven't really played with it. But this one's made by Matt Corallo, Blue Matt. I think the good folk at Square are helping him out with that. This is also known as the Lightning Developer Kit. And it's like a very lightweight and flexible implementation that's meant for mobile. And then we've got LND Hub. This one isn't really an implementation, really, but I want to speak about it because it's quite important. This is maintained by Blue Wallet, and it's their custodial interface on top of LND so that the users of Blue Wallet can custodially use the Lightning Network. It's written in Node.js. It does not, it's far from fully featured, but it's a very interesting way to get newbies onto the network. Obviously, I have concerns about custodial risk, but, at such an early stage in the network, I think it shouldn't be stressed too bad. All right, so, Lightning isn't perfect. Most systems aren't, and it's got some problems, but some solutions have been coming up, and I want to talk about them briefly right here. So first is privacy and routing. If you're trying to send a payment from A to C and I'm the B node in between A and C facilitating that, I know where the payment's coming from, who's it's going to, and what the amount is. And you also have like public channels that are broadcasting what their balances are. You could sort of like piece together how much they're sending both ways. So like one solution somewhat is private channels that only the two counterparties of the channel know about. That's got some problems in that those private channels aren't broadcast unless you have like routing hit that you explicitly give to your counterparty, and then you lose the privacy. So that's a little funky. I really like this one, multipath payments. This allows you to split up a payment over multiple routes. So if someone is watching half the transaction, you can split up into as many parts as you have available. Probing just takes longer. But multipath payments is massive, and it really helps with liquidity too if you could pool together from different channels to make one big transaction. I love that feature. Then I spoke about needing nodes online 24/7. Watchtowers, which administer the justice if your counterparty is cheating on you, is a great solution, but it's still a bit experimental, and they're trying to iron some stuff out there. There's also custodial solutions like Blue Wallet's LND Hub we spoke about earlier. And then there's some interesting solutions with like the light client wallets that we're seeing that are based on Neutrino, and they'll basically maintaining your channel state as long as you sign into the wallets every 2 weeks. So that's an interesting approach as well. Then we got some problems as far as channel management. There's the complexity there. And you need liquidity to accept payments. Like how is a new user that's being onboarded to a light wallet can accept a payment if he doesn't have a channel coming in? So it's been cool to see the different wallets in the space, try to come up with solutions. We got Breeze Wallet. I believe it's on Android only. I'm not sure if it's on iOS, but that opens a channel to you in the onboarding process. We got Phoenix that does something very similar. You know, these solutions aren't perfect because there's a bit of trust involved when you're doing the channel funding before it's confirmed. And if you want to swap between Lightning and on-chain. A really cool solution that, you know, people don't really think about, just like you could just open a channel to someone, and then if you spend from that channel, the amount that you've spent is going to now become incoming liquidity for you. So that's always a quick fix. If you don't want to pay for an incoming channel or set one up to it, you just go ahead, open to someone's channel, make a payment. You've got some incoming liquidity. Hopefully it's enough for you. And then, you know, custodial abstracts this all away. Like in Blue Wallet, you don't see the channels at all. You don't know what your incoming or outgoing liquidity is. It's just managed by the one node, main LND node. Then there's cheating. If a counterparty tries to close out your channel and they want to pretend that the last state is that they had all the sats, you either need a 24/7 node or a watchtower. And yeah, punishment transactions are dished out because of the time locks, check sequence verify and check lock time verify. So that's a pretty good solution. Then we have the increased complexity in workflows with invoices. This is what I was talking about. Like with Lightning, you generally have to create an invoice for someone to pay you. But that's not really the case anymore. We've got this great new feature called KeySend. Most of the implementations support it now, although it is opt-in. And basically all you need is someone's public key, Lightning public key, to be able to send them a payment. So the workflow is much more like sending an on-chain Bitcoin transaction, which is awesome. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't mention LNURL, which is a protocol on top of the Lightning invoice system that lets you do some really cool operations just by scanning a QR code. You could pay someone, of course, but you could also trigger a withdrawal from like an exchange, for example. You can have an LNURL to open a channel. Or the coolest of them all, I think, is LNURL auth that lets you scan a QR code to log into a website, which is incredible. Really hoping to get that into Zeus. We need one PR to be merged on LND, and we're going to have that soon. And then we also have route computation. So as Lightning works now, when you're figuring out the route to send your payment, the sender has to calculate it all. And that works fine for now with our little Lightning network. But what happens when we have millions of nodes? That's going to be a lot of computation of figuring out the path to, you know, your bodega or, you know, pay your bills, whatever. So one idea is trampoline payments, and basically we're going to have these super nodes that have knowledge of most, if not all, of the network, and we're going to offset the computation to them. So that one, I believe, is in progress. The spec is still in progress. So other really big questions for Lightning. How will fees on LN scale as fees on chain become burdensome? Is this going to make microtransactions untenable? Potentially. I think this is something we're going to have to see play out in real time. And then will routers start prioritizing big transactions and net them more? You know, like, why would I spend time routing your little payment if it's going to net me 5 sats when I could route this bigger one that's going to net me 50? And, you know, it's really going to put to test like the network throughput and see if that's going to really become a problem. I guess we'd have to get to a really big point for that to be huge. And then my last question is, will normal users still be interacting with the blockchain? Were they going to be setting up their payment channels every month, every quarter? Is that what's going to work? Or are the bulk of users going to end up in like closed loop or custodied situations? So that's going to be another interesting one to see play out. Quick little rundown of where features or popular features stand on all the different platforms. Channel management exists across the big three, but not on something like LND Hub, which is custodial. Key send, which is turns Lightning payments more into the on-chain UX flow. Now supported across all the implementations. That's awesome. Multi-path payments, where you could split up your route into multiple pieces. Now supported across all the main implementations. Coin control is very important as far as Bitcoin privacy. You want to be able to split up and control your UTXOs. And we've made some pretty good progress on that in recent months. LND has a new API that they're building out. It needs a couple more updates to make it really user-friendly, but that's going to be coming soon. Already works great with C Lightning. And I would like to see that on Eclair, but it doesn't seem to be supported by the API yet. Then trampoline payments. Eclair is the one that has it enabled. It's very experimental, so it's disabled by default. And as I said earlier, the spec has not been finalized. And lastly, sort of similar to coin control, is selecting the first and last hop, if possible, in selecting your route. LND has this feature now, and it's sublime. It could really help, control who is going to see your payments. So love to see that feature. Now let's talk about a couple of notable adopters. Lightning isn't super widespread, but we've got some pretty big names that are really, have divin in head first, whatever. We got lnmarkets.com, which is a futures market. You can just fund everything, all your trades with Lightning. Incredible. River Financial is the new startup that supports Lightning withdrawals. I haven't used them yet, but I plan to do so soon. I've heard good things. From the biggest of them is Bitfinex. Bitfinex is a pretty notable exchange. They've been around a long time. They support LN. And then we have the peer-to-peer service, HODL, which also supports it. Then a couple of interesting services and retailers of note. We got BitRefill. It's a very popular service for topping off gift cards for phones and different services. They've been around a while, and they embrace LN pretty much out the gate, which is great to see. We got HODLnuts, Bitcoin Zine, Citadel 21. I gotta go check my PO box, see if my copy is here. I'm really looking forward to flipping through that. But yeah, it's really, really encouraging to hear that they have like 30% of the purchases going through LN. That's awesome. Then we got Jack Mallers / Zaps, LN Strike, which lets you link a bank account and pay LN invoices directly. I think that's really huge for the community because that really helps users with their tax burden. They don't have to be calculating, what their cost basis was. They just pay in dollars, and you could pay in a Lightning invoice. That rules. Then we got Lightning Loop, which is maintained by Lightning Labs and Alex Bosworth, I believe, and it's just a service to switch between to rebalance your channels. And I think there's a swap feature too. So it's a really cool tool. I really suggest that you guys check that out. So let's get into the numbers. Let's see, how big is this Lightning network? So I really highly recommend you guys check out the site on bitcoinvisuals.com/lightning. I think these charts really give you an idea of how much money is on this thing. So up top are the charts, and then I included the legends at the bottom so you guys could see. So as of 2 days ago, we have about 7.6 thousand nodes on the network. We've got almost 34,000 unique channels. That means like unique being between the two counterparties. Some implementations allow you to create multiple channels with your counterparty, so that's why we have the duplicate ones. But it's not supported by all the implementations. The capacity per channel on average is about $317. which is pretty par for the course. And then the most important stat here is the network capacity, which is just over 1,000 Bitcoin at 1,091. And the US dollar value of that, as of 2 days ago at least, was just under $12 million. So I'll be real with you guys. That's not so much. The adoption is tiny. So we can't really tell the full capacity of the network because of the nature of private channels. But let's say we extrapolate, let's say optimistically, almost half the channels are private. That's still only $20 million. So for reference, let's take a popular news event, MicroStrategy, the business analytics company that bought, it's something like $450 million in Bitcoin from for the reserves. Yeah, that's a whole lot bigger than LN. If they decided to put MicroStrategy's, all of their funds on Lightning Network, this capacity of the network would go up 23.5 times. It's pretty staggering. But despite this all, and adoption being tiny, I'm not discouraged. I'm a bit of a realist. In working in Bitcoin, I've begun to see how important people's incentives are. So I sort of concluded that Lightning likely won't hit a critical mass until Bitcoin sees some sort of other fee crisis. And this could happen very, very soon. I suspect that we could see an event like this in the next year and a half as we go into this crazy bull market. But there's an upside to this. We're really early. So this is a call to action for you all to try to get involved however you can. You can go and contribute to the protocol implementations. There's a lot of ideas that still need to be fleshed out and built upon. You could go and contribute to wallets. I know over at Zeus, we want to see more contributors. That'd be great. If you can't code, you can help projects out and help them with translations. I know we've got a multinational community right here. I'm sure we could help with each other's projects with translations. Or you could also, just use Lightning. Set up a new service that accepts LN as payment. Maybe use BTC Pay Server. Or if you really want to get into the weeds of it, become a router, manage your liquidity, and try to make some profit off of routing. There's a lot of possibilities here. And I believe that's all I have for today. So Lightning's is making a lot of crazy progress. Features are coming up to address a lot of problems it has. It's not perfect, but it can really help the network scale when we're dealing with congestion on the blockchain. And I hope to see you guys on the Lightning Network.
Thank you. That was indeed amazing, Ivan. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Excellent. So all I'll do is now hand it over to Anita so that she can address the questions that we've got for Ivan, and then we'll move over to Robert Breedlove.
Yes, there were two questions, I think. One was from Diego Torres. He's asking, where does the data or the transaction of the payment persist? I think, yep.
So this is that data only stays on the nodes that were involved. So obviously whoever sent it, the counterparty, and then all the routers actually. So a lot of wallets will now show you the routing history. So you can go through, you can figure out the sender, the receiver, what the amount was, and how much you made depending on what fees you set. So yeah, it's all just stored on the nodes. Doesn't get saved to the blockchain. But you can't think that your LN payment, once you've made it, is completely ephemeral and gone. The routers and your counterparties had to have known that data to make the payment go through.
But is this data then stored on the nodes, or is it then deleted when the payments are through and are settled on the base layer?
Once it's reached the base layer, no, there's still some history of the routing you've done. I believe LND at least saves your entire history of your forwards, your payment forwards, which is your routing. So yeah, they just exist on the nodes.
Okay. Justice Mental is asking, can artificial intelligence help the Lightning Network?
AI? Oh, wow.
AI, yeah.
Potentially, I guess it depends what you mean by AI. I'm not really an AI expert, but potentially, I think there's interesting things that could be done with managing liquidity, making sure things are running as smooth as possible, but also setting up channels so that the network stays decentralized and there's not big hubs going on. So if you want to help on that front, I think looking at L&D's autopilot feature might be important there. Autopilot pretty much, once it sees you have funds in the on-chain wallet, it'll go and open channels for you sort of randomly and automatically. So that could be an avenue for AI to improve. Yeah, I really can't say I'm not an AI expert.
Okay, one last question from Alex Myers. He says, we have several efforts that make running your own node more feasible versus custodial, MPP, loop, etc. What other developments might help people choose to DIY instead of going custodial?
Wow, that's a very good question. So it's going to be a little tricky because these custodial solutions can abstract a lot of things out and make workflows much easier. But for the user that wants control, they want to have more privacy, and manage things like private channels. You're going to have your own node. But also things like key send aren't just limited to things like just making those payments without having to do invoices. I think you can actually include data too. So I have not seen the custodial solutions embracing key send. So stuff like messaging on Lightning Network, you're almost definitely gonna be better off using your own node instead of having a custodial solution. I know there are custodial things like Sphinx, but they come with trade-offs as far as your privacy and position the network go. So yeah, I mean, it's the super awesome UIs that we're seeing between Ride the Lightning and Zap and Zeus and things like that, and yeah, that's gonna definitely be a challenge. It's, as I said earlier, we got to try hard to make sure that we don't trap all our users in these closed loop custodial solutions. But it seems like every couple of months we're seeing great tools that that look great and are easy to set up. Most recently is Umbrella, which is another pre-built node solution. The UI looks incredible, and I think it might be the best so far. So I'm optimistic.
Okay, that were all the questions. Thank you, Ivan.
Great, thank you very much. It was a great privilege to present, and hope to see you on Lightning. If you need to contact me, I'm Evan Kaludis on both Twitter and Telegram. You should be free to message me. Zeus is also on Telegram, and yeah, you could also join the Greek cryptocurrency community on Telegram. I'm in there too. So
excellent.
Don't be a stranger.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Evan. That was indeed very concise and straight to the point. And we've got Robert Breedlove today as well with us. Robert's one of the people online right now that struggled the most in order to come online, because he sits in LA and it's currently 7 a.m. there right now. So Robert, thank you so much for jumping on our call today. And especially if it's done at 7 a.m., it's not something we're taking for granted. So I'm just going to hand it over to you so you can give like your message to the communities. What have you been up to? Where do you see Bitcoin from a macro stand view that you are very well able to cover, and whatever you think is relevant?
Hey guys, thank you for having me. You're lucky. I usually get up at about 6 in the morning anyway, so you're my first stop for today. I appreciate the introduction. That was a great presentation on Lightning. Appreciate the update for that. My name is Robert Breedlove. I'm the CEO and CIO of Parallax Digital. We're a global multi-strategy crypto asset fund, and then we also do a lot of Bitcoin-focused consulting. I think Bitcoin right now is probably more exciting than it's ever been. The biggest news lately is this MicroStrategy acquisition of $425 million US worth of Bitcoin. And I ran some numbers on that and posted that in a recent tweet. So he acquired, he being Michael Saylor, who's the CEO of MicroStrategy, acquired 38,250 Bitcoin since August. And that equals roughly 0.19% of the total supply. That's using a very liberal estimation for total supply of 20 million. And when you run the numbers on how this engages the corporate level game theory, there are approximately 41,000 listed companies globally. So companies traded on public stock exchanges, of which MicroStrategy is one. Collectively, those 41,000 companies control about $80 trillion in balance sheet. And if you look at the MicroStrategy Bitcoin purchase and realize that only roughly 520 of those 41,000 listed companies globally could possibly make the same acquisition based purely on Bitcoin supply constraints, you realize that this game of musical chairs is just starting to heat up kind of at the macro level. And this is really exciting, I think, for a lot of people that are outspoken on Bitcoin, because we've been calling for this for a long time, right? For a long time, people have said, here's how the game theory operates at an individual level, and it is sort of fractal at the corporate and nation state levels as well. So I think it's really exciting to see people of that caliber and controlling that much wealth falling down the proverbial rabbit hole. That's big news. I think too, central banks have really reinforced the Bitcoin investment thesis, quantitatively clearly, but I think qualitatively as well. People are just starting to pay attention. A lot of the boomer generation lived through the last great monetary inflation in the 70s. And I think that being within the span of one lifetime, that wisdom is still kind of baked into the collective consciousness here. So we're getting lots of indications of high net worth individuals and family offices looking to park some wealth into Bitcoin. And I think moves like MicroStrategy and moves like Paul Tudor Jones are just sort of de-risking that proposition for people in that position. So, Paul Tudor Jones now sort of gave the green light to anyone managing a hedge fund to take at least a speculative position in Bitcoin. And then the big move with Michael Saylor and his more philosophical backing of Bitcoin, I think really de-risk it for corporate treasuries and CFOs worldwide. So I expect to see that all kind of dovetail nicely into a really extreme bull run in the next 24 months. And then I'd be happy to answer any specific questions or guide the conversation whichever way you guys want to go, or I could just kind of talk about Bitcoin more generally.
Do we have any questions on the chat, Anita, or not?
No, there are no questions on the chat, but I have a question actually. As far as I understand, the MicroStrategy deal, like buying all those Bitcoin, is also custodial, like the Paul Tudor Jones buy-in. Do you see, is this common that bigger companies use custodial solutions, or do you see them also going non-custodial in the future?
Yeah, I believe most, especially publicly traded equities, would have a mandate to use an approved custodian. So here in the United States, I don't think we have an SEC approved custodian yet, but there are, like the state of Wyoming has approved custodianship. I think a lot of companies that are publicly traded and large institutions will be forced to use a custodian in those respects. I do believe, though, as Bitcoin becomes more widespread, that you'll see companies employing more of a multi-signature schema, maybe to control at least some of the actively used Bitcoin. They might hold a lot of it in deep cold storage via a custodian, but I do think you'll get the kind of 2 or 3 multi-sig schema for corporate treasuries that are actively using it. But that tech is all really new, and clearly people are still just trying to understand what Bitcoin is, much less what a multi-signature custody scheme is. So that all these things take time, but certainly expect to see that in the coming years. And I also think there's an opportunity there too, that to have a Bitcoin native accounting solution, Bitcoin native financial services, everything that high net worth individuals and corporations are accustomed to using today, via institutions like a Fidelity or whatever, where they can just pick up a phone and execute certain actions. I think there's an opportunity there for companies to kind of fill the gap, where between the millennial user that would want to be all self-custody, self-executing Bitcoin transactions versus more of your boomer type demographic that wants to pick up the phone and call someone. I think there's a middle ground there that stands to be served.
This week, I think Kraken also got the license to be a chartered bank or something like that in Wyoming. That's a big move also, is it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we had the comptroller of the currency here in the U.S. announce, I guess it was about a month and a half ago, that banks were now authorized to custody Bitcoin on behalf of their clients. And to that point, the Wyoming laws are very friendly for crypto. It's a very libertarian state overall, and there's very kind of a grassroots, a localized governmental effort there. So people like Caitlin Long, Trace Mayer previously have been doing a lot of work there on the reg front. And yeah, I think Kraken, by picking up that banking charter, clearly they already have a well-established exchange business and network effect. So if you can start to marry those two worlds, that's a very, very important and formative integration between the traditional financial infrastructure and crypto assets.
Robert, in terms of the OTC market, do you see offers for somebody who's looking to buy like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 Bitcoin? Is there an OTC market for people willing to do that at an OTC level, or there's just no supply?
I think transactions of that size are mostly going to be done clearly off-chain, possibly via dark pools. I don't know that OTC markets are processing chunks of that size. We actually haven't looked at that size in a long time. So I don't know that I'm best to answer that question.
Understood. Any other questions, either on YouTube or over here? No. Robert, thank you very much for your time, and you're more than welcome to stick around as we got a couple of more presentations going. Would like to thank you for your input and joining as well.
Yeah, thank you guys. Take care.
Thank you. All right, so I think we can carry on with our friends from Austria. Daniel, are you with us?
I'm here.
Okay, so I'll hand it over to you so that you can start off your presentation.
So we are going to talk about anonymity. So let's see if we get the slides up here. So first, I said the word we. The question is, who are we? We are Bitcoin Austria, established already in 2011. So we are kind of old school Bitcoiner, an NGO from Austria. Anita and Johannes are also on board there. So Johannes and me are going to talk quickly about anonymity in Bitcoin, how the state of the art kind of looks today, and yeah, we are also curious for questions around the whole topic because we think it's a very important one. So to get right into it, right now, I hope most of you know, Bitcoin itself is not anonymous. It's kind of pseudonymous. So you have a chain where you can just open your own bank account, so to say, in the form of a key pair, and people can send it to your key, but they don't know necessarily who owns that key. That doesn't mean that you are not trackable. So a lot of the Bitcoin transactions on chain have already been tracked. It's kind of easy if you're, for example, Kraken or Coinbase, to know like which addresses you're sending money to and who those people were that requested those transfers. So there is a lot of tracking software going around and also scoring of Bitcoin transactions and their kind of security. So you can say on the one hand, like, why do I care? I'm not doing anything illegal, the classic argument. And I'm telling you why you should care. One of the main arguments about good money is fungibility. So what we really need in Bitcoin is it to be fungible. What we don't want is that you can have a Bitcoin that's worth 90% of another Bitcoin just because it was put through a mixer or because it was like involved in an illicit transaction like 4 or 5 transactions ago, because then it's not real money, right? If you get $1, you know it's worth $1, you know it's not worth 90 cents, and the same should be happening with Bitcoin. So we want a non-linkable history of your transactions. And there are basically 2 fights that we're fighting. It's not just one. One is the fight of the on-ramps. So getting fiat into crypto is getting harder. Like, people are not really talking about it too much because we all got used to, over the years, just like filling out KYC forms and sending our passports everywhere. But this was not the norm some years ago. But it has come the norm. Even local Bitcoins and famous platforms where you can locally just meet people and hand them cash against Bitcoin are now KYC'd. So there's a small list of exchanges that still allow you to buy crypto anonymously, which is, for example, HODL, or even more so BISC, where you can over Tor kind of have a matchmaking of buying Bitcoin. You can also buy them, of course, OTC. And also Bitcoin ATMs are popping up everywhere to kind of mitigate this issue, but of course they have limits. There is one list, it's KYC, not me. If you want to check it out, it's kind of a really nice aggregator on where you can buy Bitcoins and get into the ecosystem without KYC. But you will also see that it's not a long list. So there's definitely some issues there in getting on board. But let's assume that most of you are already in the ecosystem. What are you doing then? There is actually something that's called CoinJoin or PayJoin, which or PayJoin. Those are techniques for you to mix your coins together. It's a trustless mixing service actually, which literally just does that. So you get a bunch of Bitcoin transactions and mix them together, put them in different outputs with various values. So it's very hard for people to follow who actually did the transaction. Actually, Hannes will show you afterwards how this works kind of in practice. One thing you have to realize here is while it might be harder to track your on-chain, your P might still be very visible. So it's very it's kind of necessary actually to use Tor with such solutions. Also to use your own full node for privacy when you're mixing Bitcoins. That should be the go-to standard. And this whole thing was basically started in 2015, or not started, but it was when Join Market kind of started, which is by the time still, I think, the biggest and most used CoinJoin implementation. And this is also now integrated in Raspberry Blitz. If you are lucky to have built one of those, it's like a full node setup for your home, basically. So it's very easy. You see it on the right top. It's kind of still hacker looking like, but it's not so hard to mix your coins via your Raspberry Blitz. As I've mentioned, PayJoin is basically even another level. If you combine your transactions in a coin join, you can also opt to give some of your money or to have more output on one of the ends, so to say, which is basically you're paying somebody in an anonymous way, which is what PayJoin does facilitate. So has this been adopted? Kind of. So we see like very old data here. There was like a kind of interest in it when people played around with it in 2011, mixing a lot of coins, but then it kind of died off until now, when privacy is becoming more and more debated and like the hot topic. You can see the trend line definitely going up, and also like to more recent numbers with the launch of Wasabi wallet, which is it depends how you measure it, but definitely one of the most used CoinJoin implementations. It's become very easy to do that, and right now it's about 60,000 or 70,000 Bitcoin that are monthly joined together there in total in the CoinJoin markets, which is a kind of significant, really nice number, I think. What does the future hold for this forward? Because it's still not like the big everyday used thing, and I'm sure a few of you people that are watching now have actually done something like this yourself. And part of this is also how it's implemented. But there's always a but. Bitcoin is really moving, as Evan said before, like really fast, not only in Lightning but also on chain. There's actually this BIP 340, which got merged this week. So we are like super current of Schnorr signatures, which could improve a lot of those techniques a lot. So what do Schnorr signatures enable? They basically allow you to add and subtract transactions into one transaction. So that can help you to make multi-signature transactions look like normal transactions, because right now, basically everything has to be signed individually by every key. But in this case, you can just push like an aggregated hash into the blockchain, which will make this way easier. Also, a big advancement via ECDSA, the Schnorr transactions are not mutable by default, so they can't be changed by a forwarder. That's definitely the big technical thing that's happening this week. So follow it. It's very cool, and I hope it will be soon enabled by miners. What does that relate to the privacy terms? Because in and of itself, Schnorr is not privacy preserving, right? Don't make the mistake and think, oh, Bitcoin is now like as anonymous as cryptocurrencies that were made for privacy in mind just because this was merged. First, you have to use it, of course. Second, you have to use it the right way. But the cool thing is it will enable services to be built around it that will help you do exactly that very efficiently. So there's two things I want to mention. There's the Merkleized abstract syntax trees, which kind of describes how you can make a complex transaction but have only this one hash and put it into the blockchain. There's like a reason why this didn't get adopted like this, because they look very different to normal transactions. So everybody would know that you're using such a scheme, and it would also mean that people would kind of be able to identify it easily if there are not a lot of them happening. So that's why there's another proposal. It's Taproot. That's a very cool one. It's actually just one bit ahead of Schnorr, but hasn't been merged yet, but hopefully soon. This one hides those mask conditions. And now through that, in a very simple sense, public key payments or script payments can look exactly the same, which is kind of really cool, because then you can have like different incentives for coin joins. Right now, you can imagine coin joins are, the more people join in, the more expensive they get, right? Because you are mixing with a lot of people. Also, they see, you basically see all of their transactions. But after Schnorr, if you do coin joins on Schnorr signature enabled addresses, then we can have it the other way around. So we turn the incentives on the head, and actually can have signed the transaction together. And the more people will be in the transaction, the cheaper it will become. So like the cheapest form of coin join will be the best for you. It will be also the best for you in privacy sense, which is great, because Bitcoin runs on incentives, and this will also turn the incentives on the head, that we get like a lot of more, or I expect to get a lot of more coin joins, because they are just way more economical that way. And of course, in an anonymity perspective, we can't leave out layer 2, because so layer 1 was never built for being anonymous or even like very private. And to be fair, I also don't believe it ever will be. Bitcoin transactions just need to be in a way small. Like that's kind of that's a major requirement for a lot of implementations that are happening. So the main innovations here are happening probably on layer 2. So we are talking about the Lightning Network, which is the most famous layer 2 implementation. The Lightning Network deploys something that's called on-rail routing. So basically you are forwarding via multiple hops transactions, and you basically don't know the amounts, and you don't know the people the transactions are going to at the end, and not the ones it's coming to. You just know basically the two people, the one before and the one after you, which it's a lot to anonymity, and we shouldn't overlook that. It's not super anonymous, but it's as anonymous that the US government said you will get 625K if you help us trace those transactions, which I think is a great sign for the Lightning Network, that those bounties are out there and haven't been claimed. Also, channel capacity is getting bigger and bigger. The capacity is now up by 7%, and I've seen today that there is a channel open with 5 Bitcoins, which is the biggest. So there's definitely a lot of capacity coming online, and that probably also has to do with the really cool implementations, like Get Umbrel, like there's the right down in the corner, where you can basically run it in a Docker on your own Raspberry Pi. Same with Raspberry Blitz. It's getting very easy to run this, and it's all already Tor integrated, which I love a lot. That also means that right now, if you check out the statistics, so from the Lightning nodes we know 2,440 are Tor-based. So that's definitely a growing percentage, and this will probably grow even more, which kind of shows how important anonymity is for people in the network, and will be. But yeah, then just some references. You can have that afterwards in the presentation. And now I give over the talk to Johannes, who will tell you more about the practical things that means for you, because I was more like based in the theory.
Okay, thanks a lot, Daniel. Just a short question, because I'm the broadcaster here somehow. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, we can hear you, Johannes.
So, yeah, the thing about coin privacy is that usually the exchanges which have to use tools, or even authorities, know more about the coins than you as a common user know. So this core, the history of your coins, and probably it happened to quite some people. You deposit coins at an exchange, and then you have to ask, then you get asked additional questions about the source of the coins, because some hops before, even months or years before, something bad happened with these coins. And so to give you a chance to check out the history of your coins, to get an idea of what happened to them, there are a few public available tools. like the walletexplorer.com. It's out there for many years, which is basically Bitcoin blockchain explorer with some additional information. So it recognizes addresses which belongs to the same wallets, and they have a big list of well-known exchanges, but also gambling sites and dark market sites and their wallets. So you can trace your coins, just enter any address or transaction hash and see what this tool tells you about. The developer of Wallet Explorer is now working for Chainalysis, which is a professional company offering crypto blockchain analysis to fulfill KYC requests. The second link, kycp.org, means Know Your Coin Privacy. I will give you a few screenshots from that site later. Here you can trace, for example, how well the history of your coins is linked, so how well CoinTron works, for example. And the third address is more for the Lightning people, 1ml.com. It just gives a lot of information about Lightning nodes and the channels and the channel's capacity. So, well, it's a really great utility, not only for checking the privacy, but even figure out lots of stuff regarding Lightning transactions. So let's move on to the next slide, Daniel, please. Daniel, next slide.
I think we may have lost Daniel. Are you with us?
No. Hopefully he's back soon. Hopefully it's just a water bathroom.
Just a second. Let me see if I get him here. Daniel. Okay.
Let's wait for a second.
Yeah.
May I address a question
of course, let's do this.
before Daniel comes back? Yeah. I was wondering about the fungibility and the future of Bitcoin. If there will be Bitcoin of two dimensions, the one that is pure and some Bitcoins that are from a percentage that comes from illicit activities, and this may affect besides the privacy, the price as well. So the fungibility of the Bitcoins will be compromised in the future. How do you think about this?
Somehow it is already. So we have, let's call it white Bitcoins, which come directly from the exchange where all the users are KYC'd and AML checked. And on the other side, you have the, let's say, extreme opposite from well-known dark markets where the Bitcoins were used for illicit transactions. So, and now this, by using the Bitcoins, they get mixed up over time. So we don't have black and white Bitcoins over time, but let's say I call it the 50 shades of gray. Yeah? So we have all from dark gray to light gray to white. And to get a good fungibility, will somewhere find properly in the middle. So everything is like light gray. And so you don't have to care what happened to the Bitcoins you use now 3 years ago. Yeah. And this can be done by different tools. I will just show you a few now. Okay, we have the next slide. It's okay with the question, so I'll continue, yeah?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry for this.
Well, this is a screenshot from kycp.org. And this shows a very simple transaction. Well, this is one of the first transactions which ever happened on Bitcoin. It's Satoshi Nakamoto sending 10 Bitcoins to Hale Finney. And this is how it looks like on kycb.org, which see on the left side, the incoming address, and while he's sending 10 Bitcoins to Helfini's address, which is out 0, and 40 Bitcoins go back as change to out 1, which is Satoshi's, probably an address of Satoshi. So here it's totally clear. In the top you see a single, it says single interpretation, so there's no thing to discuss about it. Okay, move on. The next, yeah. And this is, for example, a transaction which used the Wasabi wallet for CoinJoin. So here on the left side, there are, in this example, 131 inputs, and the result are 208 outputs, and there are no traceable links between. So analysis software just can guess and around what could fit together, but in this case, it's of quite good quality. However, you have to be aware of that the level of privacy, the quality of coin joins declines over time because of using the outputs. And you should have at least some idea of how to prevent to make it too easy for the analysts. So don't stick together different outputs, too many different outputs in the same transaction, for example. If you do this, they can apply scoring and at least get a better guess who's where the Bitcoins are from, and link them together. Okay, move on to the next slide. Well, here just a few self-defense tools for privacy, which are usable right now. Daniel mentioned the join market and pay join, which is integrated, for example, in the Raspberry Blitz setup. I personally can recommend the Wasabi wallet for use on desktop. It's a nice, clean interface, and it's quite easy to understand how to use this. Another thing for mobile wallets would be the Samurai wallet, which uses a Whirlpool for mixing, the Whirlpool protocol. Yeah, probably move on just to the next slide and show you that you get an idea how this Wasabi wallet looks like. So it's like a common wallet. You click receive, give that address just a text that you know where it's from. And when you received Bitcoins from wherever, in this case, Bitcoins were received from the Kraken exchange, then choose CoinJoin and just enqueue these transactions, these Bitcoins you have here for mixing. Then it takes some time, which means some hours. And these coins are included into multiple rounds of coin joins automatically by this tool. And the result transactions look like this, with the green mark and the white sign in the middle of the screen. And these transactions are at least mixed 50 times through coin joins, and so by mathematical reason there's no real chance to stick them together to their origin. Yeah, so I suggest just to play around with this tool, try out, get some experience, and yeah, feel free to ask if there are any questions. That's from our side. Thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you, Hannes and Daniel. Daniel, actually, I have a question for you. That you talked about Schnorr before, and I would like to know if Schnorr has any implications on the Lightning Network too.
Yeah, so Lightning Network transactions are actually one of the kind of use cases of Schnorr, because they are, of course, multi-signatures transactions. So there is a use case for, I actually found something also recently that's called a hyper, I think Lightning Hyperloop or something, where the idea is to aggregate kind of inputs also to create then like closed channels. which is definitely possible once Schnorr is implemented. And I think it will have a lot of, on the one side, anonymity features for Lightning. On the other side, also this aggregation feature, of course, causes like a reduction in fees to create Lightning channels and close them. So yeah, good things all around once this is merged.
Okay, and then there's another question from Alex Myers. Pay-join transactions seem promising. Will they see similar benefits from Schnorr or Taproot, and how can we encourage adoption?
So as far as I understand, pay-join works basically like CoinJoin in a lot of ways, where the big benefit now will be that if you have 50 people in the CoinJoin or in the pay-join, it will be even cheaper if you get 100 people, so it will be more anonymous, and it will definitely benefit you also in the terms that you will pay less fees for it. On the other hand, I haven't really found, like, it's a cool concept, but there haven't been a lot of pay joins I know of. So it's not, it's possible, but I'm not sure if it is actively used a lot still. So my big hope would be that Schnorr actually makes coin joins a big thing, which in the next step basically makes pay joins a big thing in Bitcoin. Yeah.
Johannes, I would like to know, did you have any problems with your coin-joined coins when you sent them out again?
Well, I'm using this Wasabi more or less since almost a year now. And I was playing around with this, so sending mixed coins from Wasabi directly to exchanges, and how I'm not that high amounts, so the outputs you receive are about 0.1 Bitcoin or a little less, and from that point I never got any requests or questions from the exchanges. So I used this on Kraken, I used this on Bitcoin.de, and a few more, but there were no questions. But another thing, some time ago I got these additional questions from transactions which happened years ago, and these were not mixed coins. So the things so the coins I received had a bad history, but I didn't know about it, and because they were not mixed, I had troubles with an well-known exchange, but we were able to solve this.
Okay, and do you think that wallets, software developers or wallet developers will integrate some things like pay-join so that everybody uses pay-join and doesn't know about?
Doesn't know about. Well, that's the question. Do you want to
give
the power to the user or
privacy by default or something like that?
Default, yeah. So on the app level, on the software level, not on the protocol level of Bitcoin. Yeah, would be a nice idea, but yeah, everything it's also a matter of fees. Yeah, so like having a button automatically coin join my payments, coin join my coins. Yeah, I would say this is a good idea.
Okay, but I didn't understand until now. I mean, I know what a pay join, the concept is, but I didn't think that somebody has to pay for a pay join. For coin join, yes, but okay. For a pay.
Sorry. Yeah, probably this would be nice, but would be nice. So the question is, why should they do it? What can they make money of it? Can they earn it, or is it just an additional feature of the wallet? So giving incentives is the question.
That's actually a good point that you mentioned, Johannes, that can you make money, because even CoinJoin or in Wasabi wallet, if you provide Bitcoins, you can actually make some money, like similar in Lightning. If you route the transactions, it's not a lot, but it always depends. If it's used more, then also maybe pay joins will make some people a bit of money, and like those incentives could push people to use it. in the future.
Yeah, as for CoinJoin, this is true. You can start as a CoinJoin maker, offering liquidity for the CoinJoins, and then you can make some money. Wasabi is a little different in that way.
There's a question from Justice Mental. So having anonymous transactions means the Bitcoin history is maintained. I think I don't.
Well,
do you know?
I think it's something like this. Of course, it's maintained, so we can't create any new Bitcoins out of thin air. Yeah. The only thing which is not maintained is the linkability of transactions. So you can't see at the blockchain who is sending coins to whom. You see transactions on the blockchains, but you can't link them together. So probably this could be the answer.
Okay, no more questions.
Johannes, Daniel, this is all very useful information, and thank you for sharing all that with us today. Privacy is indeed a mindset, and it's actually a very important aspect which we should all consider. And with that respect, I would like to hand it over to our friends in Argentina. We've got Franco and Diana here with us. So hola. Hi to both.
Hola, hello. Thanks for the invitation.
It's our pleasure. So I'm just going to hand it over to you both, so you can say a couple of words, and whenever you want, you can start your presentation.
Okay, thank you. I will now change the welcome to the presentation. I don't know, Diana, you want to say something before starting?
Yes, I want to say thank you to all the team for inviting us, for inviting our community. I want to say thank you the Argentinian community for being today with us. And I hope that kind of meetup happen more often and all the community start to talk together.
Absolutely.
Okay. It's all, and good luck, Franco.
Thank you, Al. Well, I will now use full screen. Give me a minute. Full screen. Okay, there it is. You're seeing the slides, right?
Yes, we can see your screens, Franco.
Okay. Well, let's start. What about Latin America? Well, when I was starting to prepare the slides, I was thinking about Latin America, but they changed it to Argentina, and I will explain you why. I believe that Argentina is a more extreme case for Bitcoin usefulness, and I will show you, because in many countries in Latin America, maybe they are not first world countries or something like that, but don't have the thing that Venezuela and Argentina has about capital controls, about inflation. So countries like Mexico, for example, works more or less pretty okay in the financial system. You can do a wire transfer from Mexico to USA and things like that. You have PayPal. The traditional financial system more or less works, even if it's not a first world country. But Venezuela and Argentina, I believe there are special cases that have situations nowhere else in the world, I believe, and you will see what I'm going to say. And it's sometimes very difficult to explain from people abroad because it's crazy. Okay, but first for Latin America, I believe the top 3 communities in volume and uses are Argentina, Brazil, and Mexico, are the 3 countries for more users, more exchanges. There are still countries that don't have traditional established exchanges, where people use, for example, localbitcoins.com, because there are no exchanges. And Bitcoin is more or less legal in the whole continent, all Latin America. There are 2 exceptions to that. It's Bolivia and Ecuador, that there is a law that says that digital money that's not from the state is more or less illegal. We are not really sure if that applies really to Bitcoin, but nobody did an exchange, something like that, to okay, let's try it. But there are the only 2 countries that this is considered illegal, okay? But let's go to Argentina, and I will try to explain how the Argentina community started, okay? In 2011, we were very few people. In fact, when I knew Bitcoin, in 2011, I didn't know any other Argentinian to speak about it. We were isolated people. There was a forum in a gaming forum called 3D Games, where people that had a good GPUs started to mine and talk about Bitcoin because there were miners, because there were gamers, okay? But there was not people really interested in Bitcoin. I have a GPU, a good GPU, I can make money with this, let's make money, and that's it. And that was the first start on the Bitcoin community, but they were not really inserting much in Bitcoin, okay? Then in 2012 and 2013, that started to be different. We had the first meetups. I now started to see more people in Argentina meet together, have a beer, and talk about Bitcoin. The meetups started to be bigger and bigger, and that made the then go that is Bitcoin Argentina now, because okay, we started to make more activities. We need some formal thing to do this, and this is the actual end goal. And then we had a LabitConf. LabitConf is a Latin America conference that started in Argentina, but now goes from country in Latin America. It has been in Brazil, it has been in Mexico, in Colombia, in Chile, in Uruguay. We have a lot of more projects. Espacio Bitcoin, that is a community center, co-working, where people can go there. There are meetups. There are people to talk about Bitcoin. There's La Bitconeta. La Bitconeta is a band that travels all over Latin America. You can Google for it. You see pictures, videos. It's a really great project. And also we have many startups in the Bitcoin space. We have Mune. Mune is a wallet. Defiant is a wallet. RSK, Money on Chain. Money on Chain is a stablecoin using Bitcoin. And of course, we have a lot of exchanges, yes? This is CoinMonitor. CoinMonitor is a website where Argentinians go to see the prices of Bitcoin in all of the exchanges. You can see here that we have a lot of them. We have more than 10 exchanges. I believe we are the country in Latin America with more local exchanges. We have here the local community goes here to see where it's better to buy Bitcoins and where it's better to sell Bitcoin in real time. So you have the prices there, and even some people doing arbitrage using this information. But we are pretty good in this thing. Also, we have a lot of exchanges, and they work pretty well. We don't have issues like in some other countries in Latin America, like Colombia and Uruguay, where bank accounts are closing the accounts of the exchanges. Here in Argentina, we had some of those issues in the past, but now there's not a problem, okay? So well. Now let's start to explaining. The most difficult about this is explaining Argentina to something abroad. I will explain this to say how Bitcoin helps in this, okay? First, things to know. We have capital controls, and we have a 50% annual inflation of the Argentinian peso, okay? The foreign currency, like the euro or the dollar, has different prices. We have an official price that is set by the government, and we have a real free market price that is the real price you find on the streets, okay? If you want to buy foreign currency, something that most people would like to do, because we have the Argentinian peso has a 50% annual inflation. You have a cap of only $200 a month, or the amount in euros that is equivalent to $2,000 or any other currency from abroad. And to that $200, you have a 65% tax, okay? So it's very difficult for people to do these things legally, okay? If we want to send money abroad using the traditional banks, the financial system, you have to ask for permission, and it's very difficult and cumbersome and bureaucracy, and it's very limited. And this is very important for Bitcoin. If you want to receive money from abroad, for example, if someone from Europe tries to send me euros to my account in Argentina, the government won't give me the euros or the dollars to me. It will give me, the bank account will give me Argentinian pesos. Even if you send me dollars, my bank account will only receive Argentinian pesos. But here's the trick. I will receive Argentinian pesos not at the real free market rate. I will receive them at the official government rate, fake rate, that has a 30% confiscation, okay? So maybe Bitcoiners will start to see this, how Bitcoin will start helping in the thing, okay? So because receiving money from abroad is really expensive. And now we're going to talk about how Bitcoin helps there. Here's more for you to check for example. If you use Google to put USD to Argentinian pesos, you Google for it, you will find a price of 75 Argentinian pesos for each dollar, okay? So this is more what people from abroad believe. But the real thing, if you go to an Argentinian newspaper, you will see that the real price for each dollar is like 140 Argentinian pesos. And this has a lot of issues for Bitcoin wallets, okay? Because how the Bitcoin wallets show the prices of Bitcoin. In Argentina, one Bitcoin is more or less 1.5 million Argentinian pesos. But most wallets get the price in Argentinian pesos, not from Argentinian exchanges, but from converting the price from USD. And for converting the price in USD, they use the official government price, but Bitcoin doesn't use that price. Bitcoin is a free market, so it uses the real price of the dollar. So most Bitcoin wallets believe that 1 BTC is only 800,000 Argentinian pesos. So each time you want to send Bitcoin in Argentina using a wallet using Argentinian pesos, the wallet gives you a bad rate, and you should not use that. There's only one wallet that fixes this. It's called Moon. It's a Bitcoin wallet and Lightning Network wallet. It's pretty good. And it knows this because the developers are Argentinians, okay? So they know about this trick. So the Bitcoin community in Argentina or use this wallet or are used to use dollars as a way to understand each of us with different wallets, okay? This more craziness from Argentina. We had like 15 different USD prices. And here you will start to see how Bitcoin and crypto helps in this thing. The table we have in the left is from an Argentinian newspaper called Infobae. And here you have different dollar prices. We have the free market rate, the official rate, the rate you have if you use Netflix, things crazy like this. And you will see in the bottom of it something that is called dollar crypto dollar, okay? In some other newspapers, we call this Bitcoin dollar. The Bitcoin dollar or the crypto dollar is the price you get for Argentinian pesos, for dollars. If you get to the international BTC price in USD and you use the local BTC price, ours, you do the math there, and you get a price of the dollar in Argentinian pesos, but using crypto. To explain this, it will be better to do this. Suppose I have Argentinian pesos and I want to send money to someone in the United States. So I buy Bitcoin with Argentinian pesos. I send the Bitcoins to my friend if you're in USA, and he sells those Bitcoin for USD dollars. For each dollar that arrives in USA, the amount of pesos I needed to send using Bitcoin is the amount we see here. It's called dollar crypto or crypto dollar or Bitcoin dollar, okay? And if we check the math of this, we will see that always the Bitcoin dollar or the crypto dollar, this is how the press says, okay? How the press calls it. It's more or less the more expensive one. It's one of the most expensive of them because it's the more freely available. You don't have a cap, you can send it anywhere else. So so it got the price more expensive than any other of the official dollars or the different rates we have in Argentina. So here is how Bitcoin starts to help in this. I will see some functions of money in Bitcoin and how it helps in Argentina. Okay, as a minimum exchange, Bitcoin in Argentina, no, we don't use it much. I believe the situation is more or less the same in the World War. There are some places where you can spend Bitcoin in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, it's true, but it's just an anecdotal thing. It's not that people are using Bitcoin a lot here to pay for things. It's not a limitation of the network or something like that. It's just that there's not enough people, I believe, with volume of Bitcoin, having savings in Bitcoin to start this to happen. So that's not really happening. Okay, as a store of value, I believe it's sort of store of value. Maybe we have a situation that's more friendly for Bitcoin and maybe more from the rest of the world, but it's not like the Argentinian can't really buy foreign currency. If they want to go outside of the Argentinian peso because of the inflation, they can go to the streets and find illegal dollars or illegal euros and buy those. Okay, so it's not really that Bitcoin is the only thing they have to do that. They have also an illegal market of foreign currency to do that. So Bitcoin helps, yes. There's maybe more Bitcoin, people using Bitcoin for that than in some other countries without inflation. I believe yes, but it's not really a popular thing for Argentinians to use. See? Okay, let's go a little more. Unified account, well, of course, unified account is not something that's happening for Bitcoin in Argentina or anywhere else at this time. So what we see that as traditional money, Bitcoin in Argentina and Latin America is not going pretty well, but we have another thing, okay? We have a lot of more attributes that I would like to explain and where Bitcoin really is helping. The more important of this is censorship resistance, and this here is where Bitcoin shines. And this is the most important. I know that we Bitcoiners, we already know that censorship resistance is really a big thing, but most common people really don't know what it is, okay? But why this helps a lot in Argentina? Well, for example, the transfers, the wire limits. We can't send money abroad without asking for permission. Well, we buy Bitcoins and we send it, okay? And this is happening not in a massive scale, but people that know how to are starting to do. For example, I have a bank account in Europe and N26, and I buy Bitcoins in Argentina and sell them in Kraken, and from Kraken I go to the bank account in Germany, okay? That's starting to happen. More young people are doing this kind of thing. It's having bank accounts in other places of the world are using Bitcoin and mainly Bitcoin and stable coins to buy here, sell outside, sell abroad, and there they go to the bank account abroad. And more important, the censorship resistance helps when we are receiving money from abroad. Freelancers, programmers, people that work in Argentina, live in Argentina, but receive money from abroad. They're starting they try to explain the people are from abroad to be paying in Bitcoin or stable Bitcoins. Why? The thing is that when we receive money from abroad, we have that invisible tax that they say that the different exchange rate, and we have a 30% confiscation because the government, the bank and the government use the official rate that is cheaper than the free market rate. So we could receive less money. If we receive the money using Bitcoin, we sell the Bitcoin in the free market and we receive the full rate. Maybe a little commission for the people that is selling Bitcoins in local Bitcoins, okay? Or the commission from the fee for the exchange. But that's nothing if you compare it to 30%, okay? So we use Bitcoin to receive money and to send money. So this is, I believe, where Bitcoin really shines in this case. Well, portable, okay, this is more or less self-explanatory and it's working a lot in most. In Argentina has the same people getting to live outside and something, but in Venezuela this is very, very useful because there are many people that's going outside Venezuela. They have to go to a new country and they want to go with their money, and they can't use cash and everything. They can't use bank accounts for that. So Bitcoin is helping in this situation. Well, rebate unconfiscable this also is a special case from Latin America, for Venezuela, and in fact from Argentina, I believe more. Our bank accounts have having what we call a corralito. A corralito is more or less a bail-in, where the bank says, okay, we don't have the money to pay your money is not really here, and you have a cut for your savings in the account. We have this a decade ago, more than a decade ago. So some people don't trust to have all their savings in the bank. Well, this is also more or less self-explanatory, where Bitcoin helps on this. And this is interesting. The people you see here are central bankers from Argentina 3 years ago. Okay, they were showing some slides in a press conference. They were telling us that the inflation in 2018 will be more or less 10%. They were showing these numbers as a good thing, like, okay, we are going to do only 10%. For people outside, this may be crazy, but for Argentina, 10% will be good at this time. But what happened? They say this, but you know the truth? This year, not this year, in 2018, the real inflation of Argentina was 50%, 40 something, okay, but more or less 50%. So what the central bankers said would happen didn't happen. Well, this is where the monetary inflation resistance, I like to call, in Spanish, is called emisionismo. And this is, of course, where Bitcoin and the monetary supply of Bitcoin that we have, we know how it is, 20 million, halving it 4 years. You can like it, you can not like it, but it's like it is, okay? You know how it is. If you see what happened to the central banks in Argentina, they say one thing and what happened was another thing. Because the truth is, what happened in that year, it was the state didn't have enough money to pay everything. So what they did is just print more paper, and we had 50% instead of the 10% that they promises. Now these central bankers are no longer in the job, but I believe we even have worse now. But well, and what we see here in this table is Bitcoin. What we have here is what is considered money in the traditional world. But even if Bitcoin is not really great on what we consider money in the traditional world, medium of exchange, uniform account, store of value, it has a lot of other things where really Bitcoin is helping a lot of people, and with people where Bitcoin is useful in such as resistance, portability, monetary inflation resistance, privacy. Okay, it may be not good as Monero, but it's far better than another alternatives in the traditional financial system, and confiscability. What I was wanting to do with this specific slide is show, okay, maybe if people say, okay, Bitcoin is not money because it doesn't have these three things, but it has all other things that most traditional money doesn't have. So I believe that there is something here, and I believe that Argentina and Venezuela are real cases where this is helping, and we see it in a daily basis here in our countries. Okay, and that's it. I'm open for question, and you can find me in Twitter, Franamati. And well, okay, let's see. Thanks.
Excellent. That was indeed shocking information, Franco. We're all shocked.
Thanks. It's not good to be shocked about this, but it's the truth.
Thank you, Franco. Yeah, I mean, I'm not that shocked because I've been to Zimbabwe earlier this year, and the situation is quite similar there. So, but what I would be interested in, I mean, in your slides now, you said that Bitcoin is not really used as a store of value. But when the inflation is so high in Argentina, why? I mean, then the inflation is higher than the volatility of Bitcoin.
Yes, it's true, but people are more used to buy dollars for that. Okay, it's not legal to buy dollars, but they do it in illegal trade. People can, maybe in a small town or something, not in a very big city, they don't have where, and maybe they can use Bitcoin for that, because there's not enough people in that town. But in big cities, you can find dollars, and people prefer dollar than Bitcoin volatility. That's
okay, I understand. It's an educational thing, and not so much that Bitcoin is failing here. Yeah. Okay. There's a question from Giselle. She's asking, is Moon also an exchange? Can I buy 1 Bitcoin with Argentinian pesos with a bank transfer? Or where do you recommend to buy Bitcoin with Argentinian pesos?
Okay, Moon is not an exchange, it's a wallet, Bitcoin and Lightning Network wallet. In Argentina, we have more than 10 exchanges. I don't like to say one, because they will tell me, no, why didn't you say that exchange and not the other? I have friends in all of them. So, but you have more like 10. The best thing is to go to the website I said, is coinmonitor.info. coinmonitor.info. There you have all exchanges in Argentina. You have the prices in real time of all of them, and you can choose from there and buy Bitcoin with pesos or sell Bitcoin for pesos.
Okay, maybe Giselle can contact you then privately. Bruno is asking, do you think that there's a possibility of the Argentinian government trying to make Bitcoin illegal?
No, I don't believe that will happen, but they try to limit in some things. For example, in Argentina, you can buy legally Bitcoin with credit cards. Even if an exchange wants to do that, the government won't allow it, because they don't want the Argentinians to get out of the truth is that they don't want to get out of the peso. So if you go to the dollar, to Bitcoin, they consider it's bad. Okay, so they try to limit that kind of thing. But I don't believe they're going to just say that Bitcoin is illegal. We are too far away from that. It will be too crazy, even for Argentina. That I believe it will be too crazy. Let's hope that doesn't happen.
And let's hope that many central bankers already have Bitcoin.
Yeah, that will help.
Yeah. Justice Mental is asking, is Locha Mesh, the project, is it used by anyone in Argentina? Do you know that?
Locha Mesh is a project from Randy Bricho. It's from Venezuela, the project. It's a very interesting project, but I'm not using by myself of it. But it's a very serious and interesting project. But I don't know if it's used a lot or nothing. Or for the time being, I believe not much, but it's interesting to know. Mm-hmm. You can Google for Locha Mesh. It's an interesting project.
Okay, then we have a question from one of my colleagues. Do you think that with the big increase in supply of US dollars due to COVID, Bitcoin will become more popular, or do you feel people would stick with USD out of habit if US inflation increases?
Yes, I believe the situation of we having in the world war is good. Some people that used to be saving in dollars in Argentina are now considering other options. A bit happening, but it's not something totally massive or something like that. But I believe that slowly that's happening. People are starting to see in Argentina that was a country where the dollar was seen as the thing to save. Maybe in other countries, saving in dollars is not something that is being considered saving, maybe. But in Argentina was the thing. And I believe that's slowly changing because the people are starting to realize that the dollar also has inflation, and so they go to another thing. They want to have another alternative. But I don't believe that's going to be fast or something like that. The same with Bitcoin as a store value. I believe that this is something that's happening. For me, it's great. I use Bitcoin for a store value for for everything. But for people, I believe that in Argentina, for example, Bitcoin is more important for capital controls than for the inflation. So the main issue for Bitcoin is helping us in the capital controls and not helping us in the inflation thing. Okay, that's sometimes surprise people from abroad, but it's because in the inflation thing we have another alternatives, and in the capital controls we don't have much. For example, something that was happening before Bitcoin, what people was doing to jump capital controls was see a stock that was valued in Argentina and in USA. So they were buying the stock in Argentina, and in the same day selling the same stock in USA. So that way they were jumping the capital control of the state. Now we can use Bitcoin for that, and it's far easier than buying a stock in one country and selling in another. It's easier to buy Bitcoin in one country and sell in another. So I believe that where Bitcoin is helping more.
So as it seems, the best way to get some Bitcoin is to earn it, like as you said, for digital work from abroad.
No, we haven't. No, not really near. It's not. It's an alternative, okay. But we have a change. We have more than 10 exchanges. You can get pesos here, and the pesos you buy Bitcoin with them. There's not an issue. The issue is how to send those pesos to abroad. That's where the capital control is really limiting us.
Okay, there are no more questions in the chat.
I've got a question myself. Have you seen a spike in stablecoin usage that has slowed Bitcoin usage in Argentina? So ever since people, got aware of stablecoins, has that slowed Bitcoin purchases, or what's your comment there?
Yes, stablecoins in Argentina, particularly USDT and DAI, are starting to become a lot more popular. Yes, I maybe can say that if those stablecoins didn't exist, some of that market will be in Bitcoin. Yes, I believe that's true. But I also believe that many people that start with stable coins, then they know Bitcoin and they go to something that for a Bitcoiner is we used to know first Bitcoin and then we know the stablecoins. But some people in Argentina are starting to know the stablecoins because they want to get dollars and in some way. And when they go to a wallet, something like that, they see Bitcoin, okay, and then they start to buy some Bitcoin because they don't want just dollars in a wallet. So I believe this is helping. It helps and doesn't help. It depends. It depends on the case.
Understood. So it's a sword and a pillow, as we say at the same time. Gotcha.
Exactly.
All right. Any other questions for Franco, guys? No?
There's another question in the chat now. Fabrizio is asking, where or how can I commence buying or trading cryptocurrencies if in my country it is illegal?
Okay, I believe if your country is legal, maybe you can use local Bitcoins anyway. Even if it's illegal, local Bitcoin will work. Or Paxful or Whole. For example, in Argentina, Whole is starting to be used. I believe Whole could be an option. Or BISC is another option. It depends on the country. Some countries in Latin America have no volume in any platform but localbitcoins.com. That's true. In Argentina, maybe local Bitcoins, Whole, and Paxful are the free more of P2P. Okay, not traditional exchanges that have more volume. But some countries like Bolivia, I believe you will only find local Bitcoins. I don't believe you will have volume in Whole or on other platforms.
Understood. That's really good information, Franco. We very much appreciate it. If there aren't any more comments, I guess we are free to wrap it up. And maybe Johannes can drop a link on the chat. I guess if anyone wants to come on Google Meet, where we are currently talking, we can have like a more free discussion, which is not recorded. So with that respect, that was the first Global Bitcoin Meetup. I want to sincerely thank all the presenters for all the work they've done. and especially the 4 communities: Greek cryptocurrency community, Bitcoin Austria, Bitcoin Saigon, and Bitcoin Argentina. And we're looking forward to do more of those in the future. Stay and look out for the link on the chat, and I'll just pass it over to George so he can also end the presentation. Sorry, the meetup. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, George.
Okay. Thank you very much from my point for participating in the meetup. I hope it is the first from more meetups to come, and hope to see you again. And for my friend Yellow, your time, your money.